Yo, what up? How you guys doing out there today? Happy Friday to everybody. Fun Friday. We are here to give you a little bonus video, our NFL Week 6 player pool video. We're going to go game by game, break down players that we're looking at on every single team to throw in our player pool for this week's NFL Sunday main slate. If you're new to this channel, please make sure and click the subscribe button below this week and watch all of our NFL, NBA, MLB videos. And if you haven't already, go check out our new website at www.dfscheatsheet.com. I mean, we got everything to help you win tons of money, compete with the pros every single day. Go check it out, www.dfscheatsheet.com. So how you doing out there, Jeremy?
Hey, man, it's Friday. It's game day for me. I love Friday game days. Got a big rivalry game tonight we're excited about. So football all weekend, right? Some good college football games this weekend. We've got NBA right around the corner on Tuesday. Make sure, man, if you guys out there haven't got any type of membership for our site, at the very least, right now on Friday afternoon, what you should do is go at least sign up for a 7-day trial to the site and at least get access to the optimizer. You don't get the cash game picks with that, or any of the luxury box access, but you do get access to the optimizer. You do get content that comes with that. A lot of NBA content we're going to be launching. So if you have not taken advantage of a membership yet, at the very least, go sign up for the 7-day free trial and give the site a look. You have absolutely nothing to lose by doing that.
Yeah, no, definitely, bro. I'm so excited for NBA to start on Tuesday. You don't even understand. I have my GPP entries. I'm ready to go, bro. Like, you know me, NBA is my favorite sport. I absolutely love it. So yeah, definitely.
Nice $4 tournament to win $250,000. I got max entries in that already. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, bro. I'm like, hey, some people like they ask me like, what do you like better? Like, do you like NFL? Do you like NBA? Blah blah. They always hit me, bro. They always hit me with the, can you please be honest? I mean, I've had this question about 10 times, and I just tell everybody like, look, I've been doing decent on NFL. I like NFL. Don't get me wrong. But NBA is my bread and butter, my absolute best sport in DFS, period. That's when I actually make shitloads of money. So I love NBA DFS. But yeah, hey, let's not get off track. Like I said, just go check out our website, dfscheatsheet.com. Take advantage of our NBA pre-order special. And yeah, let's get into this player pool for week 6. So what game are we gonna start with?
So we'll go kind of in order of highest over under where the most action will probably be at, and you could take two teams. The highest over under 57.5 right now is Tampa Bay at Atlanta. A lot of excitement. Atlanta looks to be really chalky. 30.25 the implied total for Atlanta, 27.25 the implied total for Tampa Bay. We both have players we like and have picked in our previous videos this week. So that's game one, man.
Really quick, bro. I don't want to burst your bubble, okay? I'm not trying to burst your bubble. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but guess what? We got a free square this week, bro. It just came alive. So your boy, one of your picks, Devontae Freeman, he's out this week.
I know.
Hey, you know what that means?
Coleman.
Gotta load up on Coleman, bro. He's gonna be the single back, catching it out the backfield. He's gonna get pretty much all the carries. Hey, I was looking at it last night when we were talking about Freeman. Remember, I brought it up in the quarterback video because I said that he was, looking highly doubtful, and sure enough, came out this morning. He's out. Coleman, 6,300 on FanDuel, highest implied total by 5 points of any game. You just lock in Coleman. Free square, move on. Don't try to get too cute. I love that play. Sorry to interrupt you. I seen that news, and I just wanted to make sure that you seen that news. So really quick, do you want to take the Atlanta side or do you want to take the Tampa Bay side?
I mean, I don't really think that it matters either one of us picking a side. I think we just need to nail the plays. I think that there's plenty of pieces in this game waiting for news to see exactly what the deal is with Mohamed Sanu in this one.
Right.
See what happens with that practice report today. I know that it's a hip injury, limited participant in practice throughout the week. Limited participation is so hard to tell. I love to see limited participation when it comes to guys with concussion. You know, you look at Cooper Kupp, we'll get to that game later, and Brandon Cooks being limited participants. You know, interesting to see what happens with Sanu. I think Calvin Ridley is extremely viable. Julio Jones, like I said in the video last night when we talked about Matt Ryan, him and Matt Ryan will have a huge game at some point. I'm disappointed in Freeman because I thought this was a spot for him to finally get involved. You know,
hey, Coleman's going to be involved, bro.
Coleman will be involved in the pass game. It'll be interesting to see with him out what that does for, you know, Mohamed Sanu. Right. He kind of seems to be the kind of the third cog in their wheel. So, right. You know, Matt Ryan, you know, I'll just list off the picks for Atlanta. Then, you know, Matt Ryan, Austin Hooper, Julio Jones, and then, you know, Coleman being the free square, Ridley, Mohamed Sanu, all playable this week in that one.
Yeah, no, I like Jones. I like Ryan, Ridley. You know, like we talked about Coleman, I really like those Atlanta guys. And then going on the Tampa Bay side of things, I'm going to be looking at a Mike Evans, Jameis Winston, Deshaun Jackson for GPPs, but I definitely think that, you know, he has some upside to have a monster game. And then lastly, you know, I'm going to be looking at the tight end a little bit as well for Tampa Bay. And Cameron Brate, 4,500, very good price tag. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I mean, I've been looking around, kind of see what people are talking about. You know, we're looking at my research a little bit, and I think that Cameron Brate, honestly, I think he's gonna be a free square as well, minimum price, and everybody's talking about this dude. And I'm not saying this dude's even gonna have the best game. I mean, he has opportunity; it's there to have a good game. But even if he's bust, I think he's going to be 50% owned minimum. So I definitely
in cash.
Yeah, in cash. I think there's guys. I mean, every single buddy is talking about this guy. You know what I mean? So yeah. I don't know how this dude is not super chalky. So I mean, if he's going to be 50% owned, then boom, there's another free square in your lineup. You have 2 free squares. You figure out the rest. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm at with this game. I definitely think, you know, there's a lot of really good spots on both sides. So, I mean, I'm ready to move on to the next game if you're ready.
The only thing not playable in that game is Atlanta's defense and Tampa Bay's defense. Stay away.
Yeah. Defense, yeah, for sure. Everything else is play.
The next game up, 51.5. You've got the Rams traveling to the Mile High City in Denver. The Rams 29.25 implied. The over-under 51.5. They are a 7-point favorite on the road. A lot of picks that we like in this game. Love Jared Goff. At this point, you know, it looks like both Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks will play. You add Robert Woods to that mix and Todd Gurley, and that's a high potent offense. I think what I called it last night was the Bentley of offenses. That's a high-powered offense with a ton of weapons and a very high implied total. I like all those pieces. Great pivot off of the chalk that's going to be at the Atlanta side of it, you know, especially with the news on Freeman. Like you said, Coleman becomes a free square. Cameron Brate looking like he's a free square. You know, those receivers will be popular. I think that the Rams are a great pivot for tournaments right off of that Atlanta chalk.
Yeah, no, I definitely like it. There's some good plays for sure. Hold on for me 1 second. What team do you think is gonna score more, to be honest?
The Rams.
You think the Rams are just gonna absolutely destroy? I mean, that's your gut feeling? See,
I'm an offensive coach, right? So I'm an offensive coach, and what I look at for me with NFL teams and college teams is not to go on a long tangent, but the reason the Patriots are good every single year is because they have a system. And they go get players that fit their system. So the Rams have players, and just look at the people they've acquired since McVay's been there. They've acquired pieces that fit what they're trying to do from a system standpoint, and they're executing that. That's the next thing, execution. Can you execute the system at a high level? They're executing that system at a very high level. I mean, their record shows it. The points they're putting up per game shows it. The consistency's there. You compare them to Atlanta. Atlanta's struggled. You know, they've had some really good spots. This is a green light spot for Atlanta going against a really bad Buccaneers defense that has given it up to everybody. I just think from a consistency standpoint and from a team that just comes in and executes, when you execute at the level the Rams execute, the other elements don't really matter, right? Being on the road, that doesn't matter. The stadium, the environment, they're going to go execute their system. They're the only people that matter within it. I think they score more points than Atlanta does.
So I have a question. So you don't think that Miller can give them any kind of trouble at home, crowd pumping you up? You think Rams are just going to dominate this game?
Yeah, because what with a system like that, they're a multi-formation system. So, they probably have, 35 to 60 concepts that they run from probably, 15 different formations, and then they've probably got like another 16 to 20 variations of those formations. So, they've got an infinite amount of ways they can run a play, right? So when you go into a pass rush situation, they have the personnel to go ahead and run their same offense, but check it down and provide an extra protector with a tight end. Or something that's what those offenses that we use is a west, north, south position with a tight end, a fullback, a receiver, somebody who can chip, check, release the flat, slow the pass rush up a little bit, give those checkdowns. And you think about a Todd Gurley, right? Todd Gurley, where does he make his money in the passing game?
Right.
Right. So, I think that Stuart Scott, what was his thing? Stuart Scott, ESPN, the late great Stuart Scott, you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him, right? I think that you can't stop that offense, but you can hope to try to contain it in some form of fashion. And their level of execution, if you look, right, and I know that kickers aren't relevant in football anymore, but think about how popular the Rams kicker was last year because he was so good and got so many opportunities. Right. That's kind of like the first step and the first barrier to breakthrough for a good offense is red zone scoring, right? You move the ball up and down the field between the 20s, but then you struggle in the red zone. They're not struggling and kicking field goals in the red zone like they were last year. They're scoring. They're converting.
No, for sure. I honestly, I love the Rams offense. We've talked about it over and over in every video throughout the week. I'm just trying to be a little bit of a devil's advocate and see if, there's, they're due to take a loss sooner or later. And I'm not saying it's going to be this week with Denver, but, where they're human just like we're human. And I feel like, everybody has that occasional we're on our high horse, we're killing everybody right now, and then they have the letdown game. Perfect example was the Minnesota Vikings going against Buffalo. You know what I'm saying? These dudes were crazy favored a couple weeks ago, and they got absolute destroyed. So, that was just a real eye-opener for me as far as, that's why.
If you look at that situation, I know hindsight is 2020, but with the benefit of hindsight, when you look at that Buffalo Minnesota game, Everson Griffin then he goes out with the personal mental health issue or whatever he's dealing with, right? So that's one thing. That defense throughout the season, if you just go back to week 1, they picked off Jimmy G I think 3 times, but Jimmy G also threw 2 touchdown passes, and the 49ers, who were looking to be a very inept offense, moved the ball fairly well against them, right? I should say their defense had not put up a dominant effort even going into that Buffalo game. Where flip that over to the Rams, right? Like, this is not the week. I don't think that they're not – I know they're missing Talib, but you look at that defensive line with Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, the parts they have, I think it's a completely different story with those two teams. I'm not saying the Rams are going to go 16-0 because as they keep winning, the pressure is going to start to mount. When are they going to lose? Right. I'm not saying this will be, in my office pool, this wouldn't be my game that I picked this week. I wouldn't pick the Rams over Denver for my lock of the week, but I don't see them losing this game or being slowed down very much by Denver.
Yeah, honestly, bro, it's crazy because, right now, I'm thinking about Denver, and it reminds me of the Warriors in the NBA. You know what I'm saying, bro? They got a shitload of Pro Bowlers in the offseason. They're just absolutely stacked. You know what I mean? So I definitely think that they're going to have a good game against the Denver defense, and they're going to honestly probably win this game. But, yeah, no, I definitely like everybody on the Rams side. Receivers, Gurley. I like Goff. He's going to be very low owned. Denver, I don't know if I'm really going to be looking at anybody. You could possibly look at, Emmanuel Sanders. He's been pretty consistent on the year. But outside of that, I'm not really going to look too much more into Denver. I'm not going to look at their running backs. So, I'm ready to move on to the next game.
Next game, 51.5 as well. You've got Pittsburgh visiting Cincinnati.
Ooh, I love this game.
This is another game, too, that I think may keep the ownership on the Rams down a little bit for one reason. It's in the morning, and people love to load their players up and watch them play right now. They hate to wait. But, Andy Dalton, A.J. Green, Taj Boyd, Joe Mixon's the real deal. Those are four obvious picks from that side of it. An interesting play that you can look at in that game is CJ. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. I think it's Uzomah, the tight end. He could be an interesting play. Tight ends have been okay against Pittsburgh. Deep tournament pick. I will probably have, especially, we've talked in depth about tight end this week. It's not lovely. It's really ugly this week. So, a deep tournament play, a guy who comes in at $5,100, probably a little bit overpriced. Not a lot of name recognition goes along with them, but with Tyler Kroft out with the foot injury, he could be a guy who is a deep tournament play. Put him in, playing 15, 20 lineups, put him in one or two lineups as a deep tournament play. That's kind of where I'll draw the line with Cincinnati there.
Yeah, no. So for me, just real quick, I'll just go over the guys I have it listed. Pretty much, I have it broken down every game who I'm looking at. I like Antonio Brown, AJ Green, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyler Boyd. I like all four of those receivers. They're the 1 and 2 receivers for each team. I like both quarterbacks, Roethlisberger and Dalton. And then I actually like both running backs as well, and Connor and Mixon. I think that I'm not going to really go outside of that. But all those guys are in really, really good spots. I definitely think this is going to be a really high-scoring game. And, like you said, I think it's going to be overlooked. I think everybody and their moms are going to be on that Atlanta and Tampa Bay game. And this game is just as good of a spot, in my opinion. I like both sides a ton. So this is a game I am going to have a lot of exposure to as well. Real quick before we get one thing I noticed, I actually, I started building my player pool last night, through our optimizer, and I was looking at the guys that I was picking. And it's crazy because the past couple of weeks, it's been a lot easier to narrow down the picks to the top picks, this week. The past couple of weeks. And you talked about this yesterday in our quarterback video. This week it's a little bit more spread out. You know what I mean? I went past couple of weeks. I had about 30 people initially in my player pool per week. Yesterday, I just kind of picked a lot of guys that I liked that were in great spots that had good numbers. And my player pool went to almost like 55 people. So I have almost 20 extra people this week in my player pool compared to other weeks. Obviously, I do need to narrow it down a little bit. Don't get me wrong. But there's a lot more options this week that are in really good spots compared to the last couple of weeks. And it is really hard to narrow it down to 2 or 3 people because there's a ton. Definitely. You got anything else?
The funny thing is that I don't know why I always want to call him Taj Boyd. I get stuck on Taj Boyd. I see Boyd, I think Taj Boyd, man. But I know I messed that one up. I kind of mentioned it earlier in the week in like the first 2 videos we did. This is a tournament week because of the fact there's not clear-cut guys that you just like, oh my God, they're in the best spot. And you top that off with there's 3 games that you really want exposure to, or at least 5 teams, right? So you want exposure to Atlanta, you want exposure to Tampa Bay, you want exposure to the Rams, you want exposure to Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Like, so those 5 teams, like there's a lot of popularity and a lot of chalk within those games. And when you start breaking those games down, there's a lot of players in good spots within those games. Outside of that, there's some really good tournament opportunities. So, we'll start breaking this down as we keep going down this into the next game, right? So you look at 48.5, which is, 9 points different in the top game, and that's Seattle taking a trip to Oakland. A lot of narrative there, right? You've got the Marshawn Lynch narrative. going against his former teammates. I saw a cool story this week where Doug Baldwin was telling a story about a rookie wide receiver that walked into the Seahawks locker room and complimented on Marshawn Lynch's backpack is like a $5,000 backpack, and the rookie receiver said he liked the backpack. Lynch just walked over and dumped all of his shit out of the backpack and then handed the receiver the backpack. And the reporter's like, well, who was the wide receiver? And Doug Baldwin goes, me. So there's a lot of affection between the Seahawks players that are still there and Marshawn Lynch and that organization.
Hey,
Marshawn Lynch wants to ball out against the Seahawks.
So he gave him his backpack. Here you go, bro. You worried about this $5,000 backpack? Yeah. Here you go. Is that what happened?
He just dumped out everything.
Shit. Hey,
dumped it out. Just gave it to him.
All right.
Like, well, who was the rookie wide receiver? He's like, it was me. So that was a cool story. But there's some narrative there. Lynch wants to ball out against the Seahawks. Like I said last night, I think Russell Wilson will have ownership this week. I think he may even be a little over-owned because it's the Raiders. I think Marshawn Lynch, with the narrative, he may be a little over-owned. And I'm not talking like these guys are going to be 25 to 35% owned. I'm talking like without the narrative, with these games on the board, they're on the board right now. If these two teams weren't playing each other, if the Seahawks were playing, Jacksonville, nobody would be talking about Russell Wilson this week or Marshawn Lynch. So that's what I mean by over-owned. But there's some good spots. I think you can get Doug Baldwin for maybe 1% following last week. If you want to, like I talked about last night, do a Russell Wilson, Doug Baldwin stack. As a whole, this game has the opportunity to have some fireworks in it to tournament exposure here. There's no cash exposure, in my opinion. Doug Baldwin, Russell Wilson. I really like the one guy I like in this game a lot is Chris Carson. I just think that they found a running back after Lynch has left. I think Carson has in the last few games he's really emerged as their running back, and he's got the carries to show it. So I like him the most. The Raiders side, again, tournament exposure there.
Yeah, so for me, bro, I'm looking at the price points, etc. In this game, and I mean you got Jared Cook, okay, the tight end for Oakland. He's a great play. Don't get me wrong, but he's the same price as Amari Cooper. Okay, he is what 200 more than Doug Baldwin. He is 800 more than Jordy Nelson. We're talking about Pro Bowl receivers. These dudes are just too cheap. And I understand they may not be having the best season. I understand that. But come on, there comes a point when you get a Jordy Nelson, bro, for $5,600. This is a guy who's been almost 8,000 every single week the past couple years. Okay? You get Amari Cooper, 7,500 for the past couple years, 6,400. Doug Baldwin, 7,500. He's only 62 right now. These dudes are super underpriced, and I understand the production hasn't been there, but just like we talk about in every DFS sport, whether somebody's starting good or somebody's starting bad, people always regress to the mean as far as number-wise. They always end up getting close to their career average because that's what they do as a player. And these dudes are super underpriced. So I'm really liking the receivers in this game, especially if we're thinking this game is going to be a shootout. Then, I mean, why not take some underpriced receivers? And they may be a little bit more GPP receivers. I understand that. But a Jordy Nelson at 5,600 in a game that we are expecting to be a shootout, I mean, I think I could honestly maybe consider that in cash games just on the fact that the dude is so fucking cheap. We're talking about Jordy Nelson. You know what I mean? Led the league in touchdowns the past 4 years. I understand the situation is different, but Derek Carr is a really good quarterback. I mean, it is what it is. And every week he's shown improvement to start the season so far. So if it's going to be a shootout, if that's what you're telling me, if that's what's going to happen, then sign me up for these cheap receivers for sure. You can look at a Marshawn Lynch, 6,500. Chris Carson, 6,400. I mean, they're all in really, really good spots. Russell Wilson, 7,600. Derek Carr, 6,900. Everybody's underpriced in this game. So if it's going to be, a crazy high-scoring game, This is a great spot to stack up both sides in GPP. They're going to be crazy low owned. I definitely think this is a solid game that we can target for GPP for sure.
GPP exposure, no cash game exposure, in my opinion, unless you're looking at a wide receiver number 3. And even at that, I think there's some really safe wide receiver number 3s to look at this week, starting with a guy who's in the next game.
But you get what I'm saying, though, right? I mean, you get it. For example,
absolutely. I love the wide receiver number 3 spot. I think that there's guys that are really underpriced in that game.
Like, you know, in my video, I talked about Rodgers for Indianapolis, okay? The guy is not like a crazy good receiver, but I liked him for the price and for the opportunity, right? But then I'm looking at it right now, and Rodgers is actually $100 more than Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson is a multi-time Pro Bowler, very good receiver.
That's what I was going to say is I'm not going to go that far with that game where I'm going to take Jordy Nelson over Chester Rogers. I would for tournaments, and I would build a lineup that was exactly the same and do my tournament flip, which would be take out Chester Rogers and throw in Jordy Nelson in 1 or 2 of those lineups. Just for the fact that they're grouped together in price. In this particular matchup, this particular week, Jordy Nelson has great 2-touchdown upside. I get it, but Andrew Luck has to throw the ball so much. And I know that Rodgers was probably looking really juicy to people who follow the news this week when it was looking like maybe Eric Ebron was going to be out with Jack Doyle already out. Ebron practiced fully today. Ebron fully expected to play as far as I'm concerned. When you go limited on Wednesday, limited on Thursday, and then you fully practice on Friday, you're going to play. So Eric Ebron will play. That leaves, really Eric Ebron, Chester Rogers. I mentioned Ryan Grant. I do like Ryan Grant at 5,500 in that one. The other guy that I like a lot too is I like Hines, man. I do like Hines. This dude Hines he's a sneaky pick, right? He's a sneaky pick. He's had a couple of games where he's just missed, really having a great game. The Washington game, he got a touchdown, and that was like the bulk of his 7 points. And then he has 2 games at 8.7 and 6.8. He only got 5 carries and a couple of catches. Then the monster game he has against Houston, where he only carries the ball 4 times, but he got 11 targets, 9 catches, 63 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So I like this dude Hines for his ability to catch the ball. I think that Andrew Luck, he's one of our picks this week. I think he's going to throw it 45 to 60 times in that game. Plenty of opportunity for a guy like Chester Rogers. Obviously, Eric Ebron. The Jets secondary, I've mentioned this last year, their secondary is a decent secondary. So, you could really see a guy like a Hines getting a lot of checkdowns in this game. If they bracket coverage at tight end or they roll cover 2 over, a Chester Rogers, they could take some things away from Andrew Luck. The thing that they're not going to take away is the play calling, and they're going to throw the football. So, I like Luck, I like Rodgers, I like Ebron, I like Ryan Grant, I like Hines, all limited exposure, all tournament guys with upside, in my opinion, in that one.
Yeah, no. So, I like everybody that you mentioned on the Indianapolis side for sure. He's going to throw the ball. Andrew Luck's going to throw it. We know that. They've shown it the past couple of weeks. One guy, I only actually like one guy from the Jets, and I'm just going to quickly mention this guy. He's actually grouped up with, the Chester Rogers, with the Jordy Nelsons. I like Quincy Enunwa. I like him. You got the Colts. They're 28th versus the pass. So they're allowing a lot of pass yards. The Jets are, I feel that the Jets are going to be trailing in this game. They're going to have to throw. And Enunwa, early in the year, he made some noise. The first couple of games, he got 10 targets and 11 targets. The next couple of weeks, he got 8 targets. Last week, he didn't get the targets with only 5. I understand that. Didn't have any catches. But if you throw out that game at a 5,800 price tag, he's averaging almost 10 fantasy points a game, 5,800. That's almost – you get 2 times value. I think he's a good GPP play with some upside at a 5,800 price tag. But I'm not really honestly going to be looking at the Jets too much, so I'm not really going to look too far into it outside of that.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I would throw Robbie Anderson and Anua both in the mix there.
Exactly. A couple of receivers and move on. You know what I mean?
Move on. So the next game you got the Chargers taking a trip to Cleveland. There's not really a lot I like in this game. I think Cleveland's defense from the very beginning of the year, Cleveland's defense has been legit. We had so much exposure to them in our tournament lineups in week 1. I like their defense. I think their defense is a borderline sneaky GPP play this week with Phillip Rivers' ability to turn the football over and throw interceptions. This is going to be an interesting game. To me, this is a very interesting game. I love Jarvis Landry. He's got a great matchup, one of the top matchups, wide receiver versus cornerback this week. That's really the one guy that I'm targeting in that game. I may look at targeting Cleveland's defense. Anytime you get a defense that has the ability to rush the passer and turn the football over, who's playing at home in a loud environment, they're always a team that I'm going to look at to get exposure to. I think Cleveland's defense is an underrated defense that, like I said, has the ability to rush the passer and turn the football over. So I may have some exposure to Cleveland's defense. I will definitely have exposure to Jarvis Landry.
Yeah, so for me, I like 3 guys on each side. On the Chargers side, I like Phillip Rivers. I think that he's a solid GPP play. Any week, he can throw 5 touchdowns. He's a throwing quarterback. Phillip Rivers reminds me of a poor man Drew Brees. He's going to throw the ball a ton of times. The thing about Rivers is, and I've watched a bunch of games already this season, he's putting 50-yard touchdown throws on the money, and he has people dropping them. You can't blame that on him. He's putting them right on the damn money. You know what I mean? He's still a very good quarterback. He has a ton of upside. So on the Chargers side, I like Phillip Rivers, I like Keenan Allen, and I like Melvin Gordon, obviously. And then on the Cleveland Browns side, I like Baker Mayfield. I like Jarvis Landry, and then I also like the tight end as well, in Njoku. I think the guy's a very fair price tag at $5,500. He's going to get some targets, and that's kind of where I'm at for this game. I'm not really going to look too much outside of those 6 guys for this game.
I like Njoku a little bit too. I don't know how much exposure I'll have to Baker Mayfield or Phillip Rivers in this one. I think they're deep tournament GPP plays. Game is kind of off my radar. For me, I think, when you start getting off those top 5 teams we've talked about in the beginning, I think for me, the next one I like is that kind of Seattle-Oakland situation. And then Indianapolis, I like that. So this is really deep GPP plays for me, except for Jarvis Landry. I like Jarvis Landry a lot this week.
Also,
just a guy that I'm all the way on.
Also, too, Melvin Gordon, bro, he's been beasting. You can't undermine that. Melvin Gordon's taking care of business week in and week out right now.
Melvin Gordon is playing extremely well. Melvin Gordon. The thing about Melvin Gordon is what Melvin Gordon is doing this year, as opposed to any other year, is he's scoring touchdowns.
Right.
That's what he's doing, right?
He's getting used pretty much just like Gurley.
His usage rate is really – his efficiency rate is really high, because if you look at the amount of carries and his yards per carry, and then you look at his reception opportunities and his yards per catch and his yak totals, et cetera, and then, the guy has 3 receiving touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns. So, 6 touchdowns, for pretty much equal opportunity in both the run game and the pass game. Very safe target for Phillip Rivers. And that's the one thing that I was going to mention is Rivers has been extremely accurate, and he has guys missing the ball. Rivers doesn't have a whole lot of really strong weapons. They got the kid, what's his name, Mike Williams, who's a deep threat. But Keenan Allen is like the sure-handed wide receiver for them, and he's not a deep threat, big play guy. His big plays come from, seem to come from catching a drag or an in cut, making somebody miss, and then getting, big yards after catch. But Melvin Gordon is the one guy that Phillip Rivers continues to look to. I do like Cleveland's defense in this one a lot. I just don't know how much exposure I'll have to him.
Okay, so what we got next? We got the Panthers and the Redskins, correct?
Panthers and Redskins. For me, I think this just feels like a Cam Newton game. I like McCaffrey a lot. He's one of my picks at running back this week. I like McCaffrey for a few reasons. One, opportunity. I think this is the week where he breaks a run and scores a touchdown rushing. They already have said they're committed to giving the kid 20 carries a game. He's proven he can handle it. I mean, he's proven he can handle the carries. We already know what he brings in the passing game to the table. We already know they have limited weapons as it is for Camden to throw the ball to. I'm not really on the Washington side of things here. I'm just not. You know, this could be a bounce back spot for Washington. I get that. But there's other guys at same price point opportunities that I'm more interested in playing this week than Washington Redskins players.
Yeah, for me, I like 3 guys in this game, and I'm ready to move on. You touched on 2 of them. I like Cam Newton. I think this is going to be a really good game for him. I like Christian McCaffrey. He's the obvious workhorse. And the only other guy I would look at, and a little bit more GPP, is going to be Jordan Reed, the tight end. The guy is just due for a monster game. We know that Alex Smith likes tight ends from what Kelsey's been doing in the past couple of years. So I definitely think that Jordan Reed is due for a monster game. But outside of him, I mean, I'm not touching the Washington side. You got Adrian Peterson questionable. You got Chris Thompson questionable. They have no real receivers. So for me, on Washington, I'll look at Jordan Reed. On Carolina's side, Cam Newton and McCaffrey, and I'm ready to move on to the next game.
Yeah, man, the next game on the slate, the most obvious play is to take Minnesota's defense against Arizona. The over-under in this one's 43. Arizona's got a 16.25 implied total. It's really easy to look at that. Minnesota's at home. They're a 10.5-point favorite. It's really easy to look at that. They should be a chalky defense this week. I kind of like a couple of players in this game to get a little bit of exposure to on the Arizona side. David Johnson. I just don't think Minnesota's defensive line is what it was last year. I think that they're living off a little bit of reputation. I think people that are fading running backs against them, are looking at last year, looking at what they were last year. Again, no Everson Griffin. The corner, his name's slipping my mind right now for Minnesota. Not sure if he's playing with a concussion. Didn't suit up last Sunday with the concussion. I like a couple of Arizona pieces as deep tournament plays. I definitely do like David Johnson as a deep tournament play. I think you could probably get him under 5% owned this week. I don't think it's a spot people are looking to play David Johnson in. It's not like last week where he's playing the 49ers. But that's really for me. That's really it in that game for me. I mean, you could play Minnesota's defense. You can always play Thielen and Diggs. They're going to get the targets. Thielen's got an unreal season going right now. So those are the 2 obvious plays there. And outside of that, I think that's kind of a wrap for me is what I'm looking at in that game.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, you pretty much touched on it. I like David Johnson. I actually have him in my player pool. I think he's going to be very low owned, 7,500. I mean, last year he was. I mean, not even last year. I'm sorry, he got hurt in the very beginning of the year. But the season before, 2 seasons before in a row, he was producing the same amount as a Todd Gurley, as a Melvin Gordon. This guy is a workhorse, and he's good. 7,500 is a very fair price tag for David Johnson. He is a GPP play. Don't get me wrong. But I do like David Johnson on the Arizona side. But he is the only Arizona guy I'm going to even consider, to be honest with you. On the Minnesota side, I like Thielen. I like Diggs a lot. I like both of those receivers to get theirs this week. And then I like Rudolph. I like Rudolph a lot as well. The thing about Minnesota is the running game is very questionable right now. You got, Cook. Cook is hurt with his hamstring, and he's not able to really get back to full speed right now. They said, yeah, he practiced today in limited participation, etc. But even if he's out there, he's not going to have a monster game, in my opinion. Murray, their other running back, isn't a very good running back, in my opinion. So they're using Thielen and they're using Diggs as kind of like running backs. And what I mean by that is, if it's 2nd and 4, usually you run the ball on a 2nd and 4. You know what I mean? As a coach, you know that. 2nd and 4, let's just get this first down. But in Minnesota cases, they're having a Thielen, they're having a Diggs, do a quick 5-6 yard slant, catch the ball, boom, first down, and move the chains. They're not really trusting the run game, and they're using, the short passing game. as the run game, pretty much like how the Packers do it. So I really like the receivers. I really like Rudolph in this game, and I like David Johnson. Outside of that, I'm not really going to look at anything else.
The only other guy that I would tell you to put in one lineup this week, if you're going to play 10 lineups, put him in one lineup if he plays. He's questionable right now with a hamstring. Larry Fitzgerald, just because it's narrative. Ball boy back in the day for Minnesota Vikings. His dad's a beat writer for the Vikings. I'm sure there will be a point in that game if you watch any of this one for whatever reason. If you're a diehard Vikings fan or Cardinals fan, there'll be a point where they'll show his dad and talk about him being a ball boy there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Larry Fitzgerald may have a huge game going home to Minnesota. He's Larry Fitzgerald. The guy's a Hall of Fame wide receiver. Play him in one lineup if you're playing 10 or 15 lineups and move on with that game.
Hey, he's due for a monster game. So I'm probably not going to be on him, but it wouldn't surprise me for sure. So who we got next?
Another game that I don't have very much interest in, to be honest with you, the over-under at 44. Or I'm sorry, it's dropped down to 42, and that's the Chicago Bears going to Miami. Not really excited about a lot in this one. Mitchell Trubisky, Tariq Cohen. I can't think of the other guys. The other running back's not even on him.
Howard.
Jordan Howard. You know, those are all playable guys this week. I don't know.
You can possibly look at the tight end and Burton.
You could look at Burton if you wanted to. I don't know what's going on the Miami side of it. You take a look at a guy like Kenyon Drake, who they trade Jay Ajayi because they like Drake so much. Yeah. The guy has –
no thank you for me.
The guy has – I want to say he's got like 27 or 28 carries. I'll look it up real quick. So he's got 39 carries for 153 yards and a rushing touchdown this year. I don't understand what's going on. They traded Ajayi. They signed Frank Gore. Frank Gore at 5,300 seems like he's a running back there. I just, long story short, for me, I don't want any part of Miami in this game. The most playable thing for me in this game is Chicago's defense. I will have a good amount of exposure to Chicago's defense for sure.
Yeah, so for me, I'm going to be looking at Chicago's defense. I'm going to be looking at Josh Howard. I think he's a good play this week. And outside of that, I'm ready to move on to this next game.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at. So next game on the slate, you're looking at another 42. Baltimore visits Tennessee. I'm all over Baltimore's defense. They were one of my picks this week on our defensive tight end video. I like Baltimore's defense a lot. I think they've proven so far in the first quarter of the season that they are a legit championship caliber defense. Tennessee's not very good on either side of the football. And, you know, all the evidence we need for that is just take a look back to last week. You know, people looking at Buffalo kind of like, well, maybe Buffalo's not that bad. Well, Tennessee's really not that good.
Right.
You know, Tennessee, that's the story there. Tennessee's really not that good. So I think this is a championship caliber defense going against, I hate to say it, but like a JV caliber offense. They just don't have very many weapons. They're banged up. They're injured. There's no Delaney Walker there. You know, Dion Lewis is a guy I think you could play in tournaments maybe as a deep dart GPP play if you wanted to, you know, for whatever reason you needed salary or you're looking to save salary space. You want to take a risk on a Dion Lewis. I do like Michael Crabtree a lot this week on the Baltimore side. But other than that, I'm looking to really play Baltimore's defense and would probably be a situation where if there was a more defined running situation there, running back situation in Baltimore, I may stack those two up. Baltimore running back with their defense. But in this case, I will be stacking up some Michael Crabtree with Baltimore's defense. And that's about all the exposure I'll have to that game.
Hey, bro, so I'm not trying to get off track or anything. I was just looking at kind of the player pool for this game. It's hella funny. I didn't know that Robert Griffin III was their third-string quarterback. This dude, about 3-4 years ago, bro, everybody, oh, my God, he's the next great dude. And now the dude's not even seeing any playing time on any team, period. Third-string running back, not even active at all this season. And I just thought that was hella funny that he was on the player pool. So for me in this game, I mean, I like John Brown. I think John Brown's a really good play at 6,300. I like Crabtree as well, $100 less. I think that he's a solid play as well. I'm really just going to be looking at a couple receivers, for Baltimore. I think they're in good spots. I mean, that's really where I'm at with this game. I really don't have too much interest in this game at all, outside of a couple of receivers for the Ravens, and I like their defense as well. Yeah, and then I mean, I'm ready to move on to the next game.
So Houston and Buffalo. I mean, Houston's -10. This is a situation just like with Minnesota, in my opinion. Minnesota is -10.5. They don't have a viable running back or a clear-cut running back situation. You talked in depth about Dalvin Cook and Latavius Murray. This thing kind of carries over too. I think Alfred Blue's a good tournament play, strictly based off of how the game flow went against Dallas last week. And you can even take it back a week beyond that. Lamar Miller seems to be irrelevant now there. You know, they're 10-point favorites. You got a banged-up quarterback with Deshaun Watson. The guy's a warrior. I know he's going to play this week. There's no way to sugarcoat the fact that he got the shit kicked out of him last Sunday night. I mean, he took a beating last week. They're going to do a better job of protecting him this week. I think they do a better job of protecting him with the run game. Maybe sprinkle in, you know, a Lamar Miller lineup, and if he comes out of nowhere. But if I have any exposure to this game, it's going to be on the Houston side of it. Deshaun Watson, Alfred Blue. You got to like Hopkins. And the one thing that Hopkins showed in that he's starting to show I'm sorry, not Hopkins, Deshaun Watson. The one thing he's starting to show, just take a look at from a target standpoint, right? I mean, the tight end position, you look at Ryan Griffin. I know he's questionable right now, but Ryan Griffin got 9 targets last week, caught 6 balls for 65 yards. You know, I don't know if Buffalo can bring a pass rush to get after Watson the way Dallas did. I think Dallas's defense is really underrated. They're legit defense. The problem with Dallas's defense, they can't move the football. Their offense can't move the football and keep them off the field. But Ryan Griffin's a guy that you could probably at 4,500 play this week in GPPs. Outside of that, that's kind of a wrap for me. You know, Houston's defense, Ryan Griffin, Hopkins, Alfred Blue, Deshaun Watson, and then, you know, check and see what's going on with Will Fuller. You know, Will Fuller may be a guy, limited participant in practice the last 2 days. He could be a guy because of the hamstring injury that doesn't get a lot of snaps this week if he does go. I do look for this to be a more pedestrian game for Deshaun Watson. I think they'll rely on the running game and try to protect him a little bit more with short passing game. Really good week for Hopkins because I think in that type of situation, he gets a lot of targets this week as well. That's it for me in that game, man. I want nothing to do with Buffalo.
Yeah, so for me, I got 2 plays in this game, and I'm moving on. I got Deshaun Watson. I love him. If he, you know, cash games, he gives you that floor. He runs the ball. He's thrown for 300-plus yards in 4 straight games. And I like DeAndre Hopkins. He's his #1 receiver. He's getting a shitload of targets this year. You know, I understand he's questionable, but I definitely expect him to be out there. He's got double-digit targets every single game so far this year. So Watson, Hopkins, I'm ready to move on.
So the last game we're going to talk about is Jacksonville at our Dallas Cowboys. You know,
I'm going to real quick before you get into it. I'm going to be honest, bro. He's going to be low owned because everybody's going to say Jacksonville's defense is the best. I like Zeke this week, bro.
You took the words out of my mouth. That's the one playable guy.
EPP.
Really good tournament play. Will be super low owned because people will be on Jacksonville's defense. And here's the thing. You can put 2 guys in the same exact boat. Andrew Luck has to throw the football because that's what they've got is Andrew Luck.
Right.
Dallas has to run the football and look for creative ways in the screen game. In the passing game, you saw Zeke go out in the slot a few times on Sunday night. They have to find creative ways to get him involved because he is their offense. Right. Zeke is their offense. So I don't mind Zeke in tournaments this week. Jalen Ramsey can't cover Zeke. And I don't mean like physically can't cover him. They're not going to put Jalen Ramsey in the box and have him cover Zeke. It's not going to happen. So I don't mind Zeke at all.
And then for me, on the other side of the ball, Yeldon, 7,100. I mean, I think this guy is a really good play going against our Cowboys. He's probably going to be chalky. I mentioned him in our running back video, but the guy's just a fair price. You know what I mean? So I think that he's a really good play on the Jacksonville side of things. I mean, that's kind of honestly, that's really where I'm at with this video, with this game. Is I really like Yeldon. I really like Zeke, more for GPP though, and I don't really like nobody else. I mean, I don't like Cowboys don't have any really good receivers. The Jacksonville doesn't have any good receivers for the most part. The quarterbacks are mediocre. So I'm just gonna really look at the running backs in this game and just move on, to be honest.
Very interesting with the Devontae Freeman news, what that does to ownership on TJ Yeldon. Obviously, Coleman's much cheaper than Yeldon is. But you could get really chalky with those two guys in the cash game lineup with Yeldon and Coleman and just move on.
I'm going to, like you said, and I'm not trying to sit here and give anybody my lineups. Obviously, I want people to go, take advantage of our NFL special and get our cash lineups. But I'm going to be honest. I think that Yeldon at a 7,100 price tag and Coleman at a 6,300 price tag, I think you lock both of those guys in your cash games on FanDuel, and you just move on. You don't think twice about it. I think that they're both very fair price tags. They're going to hit value. That's giving you two spots to kind of fill up your cash games, and you got to figure out the rest. And then we also talked about Cameron Brate for Tampa Bay, 4,500 minimum price. He's probably going to be chalk at 4,500. That's three pieces in your cash games that you could put in, you feel comfortable with because of ownership, because of upside, because of the matchup, and you just move about your business. Hey, we're over here helping these people out, and we may be helping them out a little too much, to be honest with you. But I really love those three guys, to be honest with you. For cash, I love those guys, bro.
Yeah, so I'll kind of move into some of the questions and comments we got. James out here calling us homers because we're talking about Zeke. But the one thing that I'm going to talk about, Leonard Fournette is out. DJ Hayden is out. Trey Herndon is out. Calais Campbell, he's on the injury report with an ankle. I believe Jalen Ramsey, he's got a knee. He's a limited participant. That Jacksonville Jaguars defense that you are thinking about as Jacksonville Jaguars defense on Sunday could have a lot of guys on that defense that don't play. If you take a look at their injury report, they've got really 3 offensive players who are listed on their injury report, and I think they've got 9 defensive players with 3 guys on that defense that have already been – actually just Trey Herndon and DJ Hayden have already been – they're ruled out in that one. So I like Zeke. That's not a homer play. I don't let my rooting interest interfere with my research, if you will. I call things out like I see it, and I will tell you this, that don't underestimate what Dallas's defense can do in this game. This is Blake Bortles we're talking about. That's the only other play that I would consider. If you look at Jacksonville's record on the year and who they've beaten, they beat the New York Giants, who got absolutely fucking annihilated last night and looked inept and couldn't move the football. If you watch that game at all, the only thing they had going for them was Saquon Barkley. But they beat them. They beat the Patriots, who were kind of, I don't know where they were. The Patriots didn't have a full complement of weapons. Patriots are showing who they really are now. And they beat the Jets. Kansas City, well documented, not a great defense. They struggled to move the ball against Kansas City last week in a chalky situation. And then, you look at a division game against Tennessee where they lose 9-6 and don't score a touchdown. So I think that Dallas's defense is better than the 5 defenses they've played, which is the Giants, the Patriots, the Titans, the Jets, and the Chiefs. I think Dallas has a better defense. Dallas's problem, like I've said before, is not defense. It's offense. They can't keep their D off the field, and their D it's like at the dam. They can't hold the gates from flooding for the entire game. But that's a spot where I think deep GPP play, I will have exposure to Dallas because I don't think Blake Bortles is a good quarterback. They've got a backup running back in. They've got a whole host of guys who may not play defensively. Some guys already ruled out.
I could easily see this a 13-10 game. Zeke gets 25 carries because they're trying to kind of clock manage a little.
For 90 yards and no touchdown, and he gets 6 or 8 targets for 40 yards and no touchdowns, and they kick field goals. Everybody kicks field goals. I could see that too.
I'll take a quick 16, 17 points from Zeke, and I'll be happy. 2 times value and move on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's where I'm at with this week. I mean, I feel we touched every single play that was very good. I mean, let's take care of some questions if we got any questions. If not, I'm ready to get up out of here, man.
Freeman or Coleman, we covered that. Freeman's out. Daniel Boston says he thinks the Colts will go underlooked. I completely agree. They throw the ball. They do. They throw the ball a lot. We've touched on that. Like Andrew Luck, Eric Ebron looks like he's playing, being a full participant today in practice. And then we also like Chester Rogers in that one. Let's see what else we got here. Ebron is not out. Ebron, I know he's not listed as guaranteed playing this week or probable.
He's going to play for sure.
But full participant today. He's playing. Emilio Padilla would like to know if they can get lineups for the 4 o'clock slate. That's something that gets dropped in as bonus plays if you're a luxury box member from week to week, kind of depending on the situation and the slate. There's a juicy situation there. You definitely will get a lineup for that 4 o'clock game as a bonus play, but you've got to be a luxury box member. I'm not sure if he is. OJ might play. Yeah, OJ might play. Brait will be chalky for sure. That's really it, man. That's really it. I don't see anybody popping any questions in now as we're going over it. If you do, you got like 15 seconds to pop a question up before we hop off this thing and wrap up this video.
Yeah, so I mean, that's it. I think it's a good week. I think this week, like you said, usually there's some definite spots. Right now, there's actually a lot of good spots. So I feel the player pool is definitely going to be a little bit more open and bigger than it has been in the past couple of weeks. Definitely want to get some different combinations in there. And I mean, that's it. I think that's all we got. Tomorrow night, is it
One
tomorrow?
thing real quick, Steph, just so that everybody's clear on that. We did, yes, Andre's asking about Mixon. We do like Mixon. He was one of the running back picks, I believe, in the running back video. We talked about him earlier in this video. And then Andre, you brought up OJ. OJ was a full participant in practice today. He will play in this game. I don't see any scenario where he doesn't play in this game. I think they limit his opportunities. But being a full participant today typically is an indicator that you're going to play. Full participant kind of says it all. It's an MCL sprain he's coming off of, so I'm pretty sure that he plays in limited spots in this game.
Yeah, I mean, and that's all I really got, to be honest with you, for this video. Real quick, hey, good luck tonight on your game. You know what I mean? I know you said you had a big game tonight. Good luck with that. Tomorrow we're going to come back and try to do a little recap and, talk about some injuries that we got and just kind of get you, answer any questions. This is going to be tomorrow evening, so get those questions ready. We'll be back. It's going to be strictly we want to answer any questions that you have, give you some advice leading into week 6 on Sunday. And that's it, man. We're good for our player pool. And I'll see you guys later, all right? Peace out.